you do this,
Go ahead.
on the actual call first. I mean, it seems like you dig into motivation first. So by the time you get to the prequal, you already have kind of a grasp of the motivation.
Yeah. So I'll ask a little bit around the motivation before we get to the prequel. So let's say it's an expired. I'm like, well, if you don't mind me asking, your home's lovely. It's in a great geographic area. I don't need to tell you that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious, was there any particular reason you were even considering selling it? And with that tonality, it's like, why would you ever do that? And then you're going to start to talk to me. And I might ask a few questions there. They're like, well, we wanted to move to, Chicago. It's like, okay, well, and my job's to help you. It's never to talk you to do anything. Is it an option for you to not sell the home and still move to Chicago? No. Is it an option for you to rent the home and move to Chicago? No. Okay, so in order for you to actually make this move happen, it would require you to get the property sold. Is that accurate? Yeah, well, that leads me to my next question, because honestly, I'm a little bit confused. Again, nice, in a great geographic area. I see the upgrades you did in the kitchen and the baths, good schools. What do you think stopped it from selling? Well, this, and this. Okay. And you strike me to be someone who's, understands the process pretty well. What do you feel like the agent should have been doing so you could do something simple, which is just get it sold? Well, they could have been doing this, and that. Okay. And, again, as I mentioned, my job's to help you. It's never to talk you into doing anything. I can hear in your voice and what you're sharing with me that the motivation to move is still there. You still want to make it happen. You're just a little bit frustrated with the process. So if you could virtually be guaranteed to sell it just by simply augmenting the approach, and if you had an offer in the next 30, 45 days that was very reasonable and allow you to move to Chicago, do you think you would still sell the property? Yeah, we probably would. All right. Well, with that being the case, may I make a suggestion? And then be quiet, because when I say may I make a suggestion, I'm asking permission to close.
Right.
And you may have to be quiet for like 30 seconds. It seems like a long ass time. And they're either going to be like, well, you can make a suggestion, or go ahead, or I'm listening. Wait.
Right.
Because now you're giving me permission to close. Right. And then once you say go ahead, then we're going to go ahead. Based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, I've heard a couple things. You still want to sell. You're just frustrated with the process. The second thing I'm hearing from you is you're not specifically clear as to why it didn't sell or what you need to change to ensure that it does. So what I'd love to do, and I really wouldn't mind, because I'm in your area all the time anyway, I'd love to have the opportunity simply just to pop by, take a look, see what the home has to offer in person. And while I am there, I will show you two things very clearly. Number one, why it didn't sell. And very specifically, what we need to change to ensure that it does. Number two, what would be the most amount we could expect to receive a detailed equity report as to net what the proceeds would be to you guys when it all shakes out. And then at least this way, whatever you decide to do, Mario, whether you put it back on the market sooner or later, you decide to sell, you decide not to, you'll have all the information you need so you can make the decision for you and your family that you feel is best. Does that sound fair to you? Notice there at the end, how many times did I say you? Like 10?
100.
You know what most agents do? They vomit eyes. I don't know if you know, but I sold 2 homes in your neighborhood. I have an average days on the market of 45 days. I am very well known on Instagram. I'm like, bro, you have 2,000 followers. Stop it.
Aaron, how about are you familiar with the technique I use to sell homes?
Yeah. I. And I want you guys to think about this in a personal context. Imagine somebody you speak to, all they do is talk about themselves, Courtney. How quickly are you like, bruh? That's not it, bro. How quickly? Immediately. But this is what we do. And I think this is why, I know, this is why we end up getting outcomes that aren't favorable.
What about the direct questions that you need to ask? I know that you say, they're like, why does it matter? And you're like, my intention in asking is not to be nosy. I know that you say that in order to soften the question so that they don't feel like
Yeah. So I think oftentimes if we're getting pushback like that, it can be the method in which we're asking. So if we're asking without softeners and it's one after the other, after the other, after the other. So let me ask you a question. If somebody, a stranger, okay, you don't know, meet you out somewhere, and they proceed to pepper you with questions, one after the other, after the other, after the other, without any softeners, without any like summarizations of your answers. Because do you know what agents do? They'll ask a question, they'll be like, terrific. And then they'll go to the next question. I'm like, bro, what are you doing? That's not active listening. active listening is I ask Alma a question. I'm like, okay, so based on what you are sharing with me, here's what I'm hearing. Is that accurate? Okay, so it sounds like this is still important to you. Perhaps you're just a little bit frustrated with the process. So I guess I'm wondering, and then ask another question. Do you see? So I think it's by softening it up front and not asking them in a staccato manner, like bang, 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 bang. Because if somebody did that to you in your personal life, you'd be like, whoa, chief, you need to back up. That's a little much.
So what if you're talking to a driver? Does that not sound, for me, when I use it, it sounds almost
here's what's true. And again, I mean this so lovingly. Like super, look like this, like right, Care Bear stare right out of my fucking chest. Like, part of the reason is because you're uncomfortable. You're uncomfortable. And because you're uncomfortable, that's the energy, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's the energy in the room. If you've ever been approached by somebody and they were uncomfortable and you could tell they were uncomfortable, what is your response?
You get uncomfortable.
And get the fuck away from me. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm flattered. Like, cool, you came up to me. But like, no, dude, you're like a little puppy, bro. Go away.
They say take the good with the bad. I take it without. Choose the win.
You know what I'm saying? Like, no. Like, so part of it is that's really what's underneath it. So if you get really comfortable with yourself, and I'm clear that I am not being nosy, I am not being offensive, I'm just doing my job.
You're there to help.
Bro, that's like getting mad at the guy who cuts your grass, opening up your door, be like, why are you cutting my fucking grass, man? You know what I'm saying? It's like, why are you mad at me for doing my job, bro? Stop it. You know, all you guys are calling me. Yeah, it's my job. I get paid to interrupt you in your life. Do you know that? I'm in the rejection business. The more I get rejected, the more money I make.
Hey, Aaron.
1 second. I made 7,000 contacts one year, guys. I got 142 people to say yes. 6,800 and fucking 60 people said no. I'm in the rejection business, guys. You get 2 people to say no to you, you're like, oh God.
Is there more to life than digits and banking accounts? Is there more to life than saying
this is so hard? Somebody said no to me.
Is there more?
Hey, if I wouldn't take advice from you, why am I taking criticism from you, bro?
Yeah.
Look on my Instagram feed. You see these little bros who make comments. I'm like, all right, little bro. My tax bill is bigger than what you make a year, little bro. All right, what do you got, Courtney?
Yeah, do you have to fake being comfortable at the beginning? Because I'm just starting to make calls again.
Yeah, so I think comfort comes from repetition.
Okay.
So, like, in other words, is there an area, whether it's a sport or a video game or whatever it is there some area in your life that you are like completely comfortable where if I was like, yo, Courtney, you got this? And you're like, I'm your guy.
Yeah, I would say so.
Okay, how did you acquire that comfort?
Like what you just said.
You did it like a zillion times.
Yeah.
So repetition is the mother of learning and the father of action, which makes it the architect of accomplishment. So that's why role playing and practicing so much, like obnoxiously disgusting amounts of practice. When you guys, you know, people are kind, and, you know, whether it's on media channels or on calls like this, you know, when I role play with them, they're like, well, you know, that sort of thing. You're watching, that's a byproduct of obnoxious, disgusting, obsessive amounts of practice. Twice a day, 6 days a week for 3 years in a row with no stopping. So what I would suggest to you is like role play and practice regularly, and you'll get more comfortable with the words, and it'll be easier. Now, in Selena's instance, she has been role playing and practicing, but it's more about getting more comfortable internally. Because I know when a driver gets on the phone, her energy, bing, fucking spikes up through the roof, like whoop, and she turns into a little teeny bell. versus matching that energy and being like, look, you strike me to be someone who's super straightforward and to the point. And I know your time is valuable. I'm going to ask you a couple brief questions just so I have everything I need so I can help you best. Fair enough?
Okay, but you were shorter here.
Of course, if I know they're a driver, if I know that they're like a bottom line person.
So you shorten your script as well.
Yeah, and if I know that they're like amiable because I can tell, I'm like, yeah, I have a couple questions to ask you just to make sure that I'm fully prepared and I can help you and your family because I want you guys really to feel comfortable and confident with the agent that you hire for the job. If I know it's an analytical, hey, Ilya, you strike me to be the type of person that when you have crossed all the T's and all the I's, you've looked at all the graphs and all the data, you'll have everything you need to make a decision. So my intention in asking you these questions is so I can gather all of that data and I can come completely prepared. Sure, there won't be one stone unturned. So you'll have everything you need so you can decide accordingly. Fair enough? That's like an eargasm to him. He's like, oh my God, this guy's my fucking man.
Yep.
He is speaking my language.
I'll even start saying it to you if you're doing it right.
You know what I'm saying? For real. He'll be like, wow, man, I like the way you think. Like, or you know what he'll say to me? You sound really thorough.
Bury the black of the juice, the boys.
Or if you're in the South, you're a blessing. God sent you to me.
You're a blessing. You know what I would say? You're in the South. People are like, I need to pray on. I'm like, yep, I get it. And what I'm aware of is, I say, I'm like, hey, do you believe that God works through people? They'll be like, yes, sir. I'm like, who do you think sent me to you?
Ready to tap in the truth. Too many lyrics by how.
All right, let's go. Ladies first. Melissa, what do you got?
Well, it's funny that we're talking about this because I literally just took a listing yesterday and it's exactly what we've been role playing all this morning. So on the during the prequal, it was all about him wanting to sell the house. And he was in Arizona when I spoke with him. He has a house up the way from me in Thousand Oaks, California. He's by himself here. He has no friends. He has no family. So he finds himself leaving the state often because he works from home.
Yeah.
So he said, I just need to sell the house and I need to move back to Arizona. I get there and I get to the listing appointment and he's telling me that if he could rent it for $1,000 over his mortgage, then he'd likely keep it. Mm-hmm. Because now he's having second thoughts about leaving California because the thing about California is it's so expensive. When you leave, it's hard to come back.
Yeah.
It's that's what your brain's telling you. So he at the end of the day, he wants the benefit of skipping the capital gain. Because if he sells now, he doesn't have a capital gain expense that he'll have if he sells it within the next couple of years. He doesn't, and then of course his other why is that all of his friends and family are in a different state. So he has two big whys. So I kept repeating that, like, okay, so I'm here because you want to sell or do you want to rent? So I took the listing. And he at the end, he was like, look, the capital gain thing, that's what's driving me to sell this house. I need to sell it. Because I asked him, are you going to come back? What's going to bring you back if you keep it? And that's when he kept saying, well, I don't have any reason to come back, but I don't want to leave California completely. He's just on the fence of that. So I think now that I have a listing, before I head on into the process of listing it, my thoughts are to give him a rental analysis to, cover his things that he's on the fence about. So he knows financially what he could get if he rented it directly from a property manager and have that in front of him and say, okay, here's the deal.
And the approach is accurate because instead of trying to convince him of what you think is right, instead you're equipping him with the information so he can self-discover what he believes to be the best decision for him.
Yeah.
And then if he directly asks you, you can tell him, well, I appreciate you asking, do I have permission to be candid and straightforward? Mm-hmm. If you guys know me, whenever this comes out, you're going to get punched in the face right after. I mean it with love. I'm not being an asshole, but if this comes out, it's coming right down the pipe. So do I have permission to be candid and straightforward? It's like, yeah. Well, based on what you've been kind enough to share with me, it really seems as though the capital gains is a driving factor here. And if you decide to rent it, I don't know if you're aware, but after 2 years of renting, you will lose that exemption. Did you know that? Well, no. So in order for that to make financial sense, we would have to sell it for $50,000 more, $100,000 more based on its current price just to break even. Did you know that? Well, no. Yeah. So being that that's the case, from a long-term perspective, which one of these options do you think would serve you best, to rent it and then get hit with massive capital gains moving forward, or to sell it now, extract the capital, and move forward? And then be quiet. And when they listen, people will always argue with you. I don't care who you are. People argue with me on a regular basis. Look at the comments. Half the people think they know better. You know what I mean? Okay. They want to argue with you. They will never argue with their own information. If you get somebody to tell you, they're never going to argue with that.
Yeah.
And you had another client too. I remember it was a big deal, put it together. It was the same process of self-discovery, asking questions to help them make the decision that they feel is best. And if they ask you directly, tell them. Great job. Yes, Ilya. Our master question asker. Let's go.
Yes. So I'm starting to get to be able to actually set appointments, and I've set multiple over
Let's go. Set
year.
appointments, bro.
Yeah. I think like 4 or 5. My problem that I'm running into right now is after that, because most of them are probate and they're not ready to list right away. They seem to become cold right after the appointment. So I'm trying to follow up with them, and they like oftentimes like don't pick up the phone like to tell me what's going on with the process right now, or just in general being very cold. And sometimes even before the appointment, when I sent all the comps and the research I prepared, they basically cancel the last minute and also become cold.
Yeah.
So what I was asking, is it too early for me to judge what could be the problem, and I should just continue setting the appointments, or there might be something you think I'm running into?
Yeah. So I think it's probably a little bit of both. Right? Where a lot of them will be follow-up. Like I'd say 20% of them will be ready right away. The rest will be follow-up in some form or fashion. The issue is you don't have enough in the pipe to be following up, because what will happen is as you fill up the pipe more and more. Is he still here? He on the call, or did he bounce? I know he was working out. There he is. All right, so let's talk about this, Heath. I'm aware that me and you work together diligently to, get you up and running with probates. And you're listing, 2 a month on average now with a full-time job. And I remember procedurally, you were running into something that Ilya was running into, where these people aren't ready. And me and you had a conversation about urgency, and we also had a conversation about filling up the pipeline, correct?
Right, correct. Exactly.
All right. Can you speak to that?
Sure. What I found is, especially with probate, is that it takes a lot of follow-up. So it's really just during your initial conversation, like the prequal, you have to kind of adjust your prequal to probate. So you have to dig a little bit more part of the probate process. Where are they? Is it homesteaded? Kind of dig in their motivation. And once you discover like where they are in the probate process, that's how you put them in your pipeline. Are they going to be ready to go in 2 weeks? Are they going to be ready to go in, 6 months? It's just, the follow-up game is huge with probate, and it's about adding value every time you follow up, is what I found too. So,
and how are you adding value when you follow up?
Well, it's talking to them about scheduling ancillary services. What can we do to help prepare the property? If they're going through the probate process, it's not ready yet. Does it need to be cleared out? Can we have our estate sale person go over there and take a look at the property? Do you need light handyman work? Just continue to be of service and assistance. Is there a tenant in the property? Are you going through an eviction? Here's a real estate attorney to help you with that. What I found is that there's always some sort of problem. It might be small, might be big. And as long as we are the resource and help them solve that problem, then they're going to continue to look forward to talking to you and not like ghost you on these calls.
Yeah, and by asking like more questions about the situation, you can find. Are you in the airport, bro? How'd you go from like run on a treadmill to the airport?
No, I'm on the leg press.
Oh shit, let's go. Oh, fucking, he's on the leg press on this call team. That's what you call commitment, my man. So yeah, it's finding out more information so you can find out how you can add value. Like, are they going to need any help with ancillary services? Is there a tenant in the property? And as you're following up, you could be adding that value. I don't know. Are you sending a BombBomb video after you set an appointment with them?
Yeah.
Are you asking me or
No, I know you do.
Yeah.
Okay, so you are. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both, bro. It's a little bit of pulling out more information so you can find out how you can add value for them. And then it's also a pipeline opportunity, because I know Heath probably has like 30 people in the pipe, but what'll happen is as that happens over time, 3-4 months, like month 4 and 5, what'll start to happen, one of them will list, and then another one, and then another one. You see what I'm saying? But you just got to build up the pipeline.
I got you.
Because I know Heath has people reaching back out to him now, because he's been doing it for a year, that are like, hey, I talked to you like 6 months ago, I'm ready to put on the market.
Yeah.
But it's a pipeline opportunity.
And also, Elliot, when you conduct these appointments, don't, even if they're, you got to find out when they're ready and where they are in the process, but you can have them authorize listing agreements and just withhold it right now. Do the pre-marketing, set up ancillary services, really kind of get those listing agreements signed ahead of time. I've had people sign them and they're still up in Georgia. I'm meeting with a guy the first time, the end of January, and he signed a listing agreement 4 months ago with me.
That's right.
So,
and that was, I want you to understand, Ilya, that took Heath, me and him, like working on that and mindset and approach, probably like 4 or 5 months for him to really get that, because he was running into the same thing and he wasn't creating urgency and wasn't getting agreements signed right now. So that's part of it as well.
I don't know if I'm taking too much time. Can you talk a little bit more about like how do you create urgency for them to actually sign the agreement? Like, we're not going to be able to do anything until March or April. That's what I.
Yeah, and what I'm aware of is that's perfectly fine. I'm looking here in the tax rolls. It looks like this property was a homesteaded property for your family member. Is that correct? It was their primary residence at the time of passing?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you know this, and my intention in sharing it with you is not to create urgency, but just so you're aware that when a property is a homesteaded property and it's passing to linear heirs, which is a fancy word for direct descendants like siblings or children, it technically passes outside of probate. So your interest in this property had vested at the time of passing. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. What's also true is in the state of Florida, the proceeds from the sale of a homesteaded property are shielded from creditors. So even if your family member had creditors like medical bills, credit card bills, they can't touch any of the money from the sale of the property. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah. So provided that 3 criteria are met, number 1, it was homesteaded. Number 2, it's passing to linear heirs. And number 3, there's no fighting or disagreement, which I don't hear that from you. You can put it on the market whenever you want. Usually takes about 30, 45 days to get an offer that's acceptable. Once we get that offer, we just put language in the additional terms and conditions that states that the sale is subject to Dade County Probate Court approval. We negotiate an extended closing period of maybe like 45, 60 days. And that'll give you ample time for the probate attorney, in this instance, John Smith, to get what's called an order to determine homestead, and the property can be sold and the funds can be dispersed right away. Now, I'm aware that that's a lot of information at one time, but does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. So usually when families,
like, personal representative, I'm appointed as personal representative right now. Do I can just put it on the market?
Yeah, because again, it's not a question of if you're going to be the personal representative, you will. And it sounds like your siblings, everybody's in agreement. Nobody's fighting, correct?
No.
Yeah. So putting it on the market and selling it are 2 different things, right? We can put it on the market while we're proceeding with the legal aspect of probate. We just put in the contract that the sale is subject to Broward County Probate Court approval. And then we negotiate an extended closing period when we get an offer. And that'll be ample time for the probate attorney, in this instance, John Smith, to get what's called an order to determine homestead, and the property can be sold and the funds can be dispersed right away. So when families realize that this is an option, because for most families, it's costing money, maintenance, taxes, insurance, debt service every month, they decide to utilize it because it could save them months of carrying costs, which could be $5,000, $10,000. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah.
Okay. Is that an approach you think you would like to explore?
Yeah.
Too many Walt Disney characters, mouses and goose. I mean, you know I love a challenge, but challenged by who?
You know I love a challenge, but challenged by who?
Aaron, real quick.
Yeah. I want to get to Alexi's question, but go ahead.
Oh, okay. Real quick. I know a lot of states don't have the ability to use that homestead exemption benefit that we do. You know, kind of throw that out there. So what I've done on some of my clients that are going through the probate process, maybe it's a rental property or it's just not homesteaded, I'll do the pre-marketing, benefit. Kind of get the property in the system. I'll shoot it out to all of our contacts. I'll put it on social media. I'll really get the photos done, really market the property ahead of time. So when the probate process is complete, and from what you shared with me, it's going to be complete in February. The goal and intention is to open the floodgates and have buyers ready to come take a look at the property. And what will come to the surface is the highest amount someone's willing to pay.
Exactly.
So
that's another approach that you can take is just because you're right. All states are different. I saw somebody drop in the comments, California is much different. It is, but you can use the pre-marketing approach, and that also works as well. So those are that's where I see you getting stuck, and it's pipeline. What's up, Alexi? We got a couple more minutes. How can I help?
Yep. So my question is about, so I saw in the pre-qual scripts, you go into directing the prospect to your online presence, like review, website, all that. So if you don't have many online reviews, where do you direct them to? Because I'm building it up right now, but I don't have like 100. I have like 12 or like 12.
I think that's okay. And where do you have them? Do you have them on like Google My Business?
Yeah.
Okay. So Google My Business is actually less like aggressive with who can post reviews for you. So what I would do is all of your vendors, anybody you refer business with, your title company, your mortgage person, your insurance person, like anybody who gets paid because of you, reach out to them. Hey, bro, listen, I appreciate your time. I know we do lots of business. I'm really trying to build out my Google My Business profile. If I shoot you a quick link, could you help me out and post a 5-star review for me? And I'll do the same for you. Right? So you can start to build that. You can also have, anybody, friends, like anybody post. It's also a good reason to go through past client centers of influence. So even if they're not past clients, just centers of influence and being like, hey, what I'm finding is as I'm, kind of progressing in the real estate industry, oftentimes people will go online to get kind of a feel and the flavor for the agent and perhaps their character and who they are as a person before they decide to reach out to them and have them help. So if you wouldn't mind, it would take like 5 minutes, but it'd help me out a lot. I can shoot you a quick link where you could just post like a character review for me. Would that be okay?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, that's cool. So I would just aggressively go about starting to compile that data. Because I know if you did that for the next, 2 weeks, the next time I spoke to you, you'd have 30.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And then I would also be I use reputation management software, which gives me a 2-for-1. So if somebody posts, so they have like these landing pages that'll start to show up when people Google your name, and you can put it in the signature of your email. So let's say somebody posts on Google. The problem with that is it only exists on Google. But if you use one of these reputation management softwares, when they post on Google, it goes on Google, but it also goes on the reputation management software. And what the reputation management software does is it aggregates reviews from everywhere. So if you have 20 on Google, 10 on Zillow, 5 on Yelp, it'll pull all of them. And now you have 40.
Okay.
You see? So when I would prospect, I'd be like, yeah, we have the good fortune. We have over 500 5-star reviews from clients just like yourself that we've helped from start to finish get the most. So I encourage you to take a look at a few of those. So that way you can get a feel and a flavor for the services and results you provide. Well, if you look on my Google My Business profile, I have like 280, I don't even know how many. It's not 500, but where the 500 came from was an aggregation of reviews from all different places, like 40 on Facebook, like, you know what I mean? Like 200 on Google, like
send the prospect to that aggregate page.
100%. That's the link that I would have in the signature of my email that I would direct them to.
Sweet.
Putting you on game, brother.
Thank you.
My pleasure. All right, Jess, we got a minute. What's up?
So one of the benefits of all of us being elite builders is you can actually leverage the track record of your senior partners. So what I mean by that is here in Texas, for the newer agents who don't have a track record, they are able to join my Zillow page and it looks like they've done 70 sales this year. So for anyone who doesn't have a huge track record, you can reach out to your senior partner and say, hey, do you mind adding me as a team member? because the general public has no idea who sold which home. They just go to the page.
It's an interesting strategy as well. So there's many different ways to skin a cat, but the answer is, because it's interesting, like, you know, there's two approaches. One is like, I don't have the track record. What do I do? The other approach is like, go fucking get it.
I mean, that too, I had to grow when I started. Prospect more.
So listen, team, I am super excited to see all the elite builders who are coming here. It's going to be amazing, bro. The first of many. We probably have 200, 250 people in the room. I promise you this is going to turn into thousands upon thousands upon thousands. So I'm excited to see you guys come excited, alive, full of energy, be ready to participate, and let's go be great. I'll talk to you soon.
Only begging that I do is me begging.